Hey everybody, I had a great opportunity to interview a good friend of mine, Josh Culler with Culler Media. Josh and I just really dug into a lot of the systems and processes that he's implementing. Again, his business is just growing at leaps and bounds, and so it's really important to, as a business owner, strategize of how do you not grow too fast. In this podcast, we dug into a little bit of that, plus a lot of other good content, so enjoy. All right, everybody, thanks again for tuning in to Beyond All Boundaries. And I got a special guest, Josh Culler with Culler Media. And I've had the privilege to get to know Josh, what was it, maybe a couple months ago?
Yeah, late September.
Late September, man, time goes when we're having fun, right? So yeah. I got to meet Josh at a mastermind a number of months ago. And I'm just really excited to have him be on the podcast. His business, Culler Media, they do all types of content building, resourcing for business owners who just get in their own way of trying to build and develop content. And Josh is the man. So Josh, if you want to give a little introduction to Culler Media and where listeners can find you and give a little bit of bio about yourself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited for you to start this. And I think we're going to have the honor and privilege to produce this for you and distribute. So I'm excited about that. Getting to work with you. I mean, I've hopped on a call with you after the events, and just like that, I think it was like 45 minutes. That one call was like immensely valuable. So it's honor and privilege to get to know you, and also I've gotten to talk to Jeremy a little bit as well. So glad to be, continue our relationship going forward. But I'm excited for you to get this podcast rolling. I know some of the guests that you've had on the show that you've already recorded with, and this is going to be a rock solid show. I love what you got going on. But anyway, so yeah, my name is Josh Culler with Culler Media. I also own another platform called rei.video. So basically a little bit of my background without going too deep into the woods here, because I'm sure John and I will talk about this a little bit, but I've been in the real estate investing industry since 2012. And that was when I was actually 19 years old. So I got in it pretty early. I was a marketing director for 5-6 years for a massive wholesaling company in the Midwest. We were doing from about 250 to 300 deals a year. And so that's really where I got my grounds for pretty much everything business, but definitely marketing. And I've always had a creative side of me that's channeled from me being a little tyke, building Legos, all the way up to doing Photoshop and ripping off my friends on the basketball team and selling them photos that took me, 10 minutes to create and stuff like that. And so that channeled into me doing content creation and inside of the marketing role that I was in for this wholesaling company. And that's really where I took off and niched into real estate, but not just real estate investing, but also content marketing for real estate investors. And that really developed into me starting Culler Media in early 2008 or 2019. So February 2019 is when we kicked off. I went full-time in the business, and we started off pretty well. And I took on clients that are real estate investing influencers. So John is now an influencer. So congratulations, John, you're an influencer of some sorts. And most of the clients that he works with that fall into that category as well. But all of the clients we work with are influencers in some capacity, whether they host a podcast, mastermind, coaching program, whatever it is. And we service those guys doing their content marketing, which basically means we take their content, we produce it for podcasts, YouTube. We also do what's called micro content. So we'll take maybe this 60-minute episode that we're doing with John, we'll chop that into 30, 40 different other smaller videos, graphics. You could turn this entire episode into an ebook, whatever we wanted to do with that. And that's what we specialize in. And then rei.video is a platform where real estate investors can shoot their own video content, whether it's on Zoom with their phone or whatever, doing property walkthroughs, testimonials, submit that over to the platform. We'll do all the heavy lifting, which is the editing, production, and return it to you in 48 hours. And that's basically it. So that's a little bit of the nutshell of what I've got going on, some of my background, John, and then we can dive into whatever else you want.
Awesome. So in 2012, you were 19, you were doing some wholesaling with the company. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I was, when I first came on, we were doing, in 4 states at the time. We eventually went into Kentucky to add that 5th state. But me and my buddy, Gary Harper, he brought me onto the team, and we started, it wasn't a popular thing, but we were doing virtual wholesaling in Michigan because we both hated real estate. but we loved what it could provide and the process of it. So we figured out how to do it virtually. So the first year we were together, he and I did 70 deals in Michigan without seeing a single property.
So are you still doing that now, Josh, or were you kind of still had always like a marketing mind, and kind of, is that kind of how it sprung into it, doing the virtual stuff and kind of figuring that all out?
Yeah, so I don't do the marketing for businesses per se, like the entire nutshell of what I was doing for that wholesaling company. We like, my business has now specifically niched into the content marketing. So we still do service active real estate investors, but we help them with their content strategy, which means like, hey, if they want to do videos on the process of selling, maybe it's video content directed towards motivated sellers, and it's telling them how the process is to work with them as a real estate investor. Like, what does the closing process look like? How fast can you close? Do I have to do repairs to my house? Stuff like that. That's what we service now, is just the content side of the marketing that feeds into whether they're running ads, their websites, Facebook pages, Google My Business pages, stuff like that. But as for me with real estate, I specifically don't invest in real estate. For me, my assets are my clients in the business, and all of my investing goes back into the business. That being said, I do, and you and I have talked about this a little bit on our call, but I do, the extent of my investing right now is really private lending. So I do a little bit of private lending to real estate investors out of my Roths, and that's pretty much the extent of that.
Well, and 2019 and what you've been able to accomplish is up to this date. I think people need to realize that you're kind of the go-to guy in a huge market with some pretty top players within our mastermind. I know you're part of several different masterminds. What was it, Josh, when you were kind of, thinking about going through this business? What was the aha moment that said, yep, this is exactly, what I want to do, and that's going to make a huge impact and have an impact? Like, was there like an aha moment, or was there just, did you kind of fall into this, arena of content marketing? Because it is such a huge space that no one really knows how to do.
I think so. That's an excellent question, because I think it's both sides. So I think I kind of fell into it, but I also don't believe that just things happening. I don't think that's a thing. Like, I'm a Christian, I'm born again Christian, and I believe that God set me up in every way, shape, or form to fall into what I have become. And so, even like I mentioned, even when I was little, I was using creativity in some way, shape, or form. And that over time has developed, but it's gotten me prepared to be who I am today and run the business that we're running. And so in terms of like more realistic type stuff, like, I did not plan on going into this direction when I first started the company. When I first started Culler Media, like, I wasn't planning on, hey, we're just going to be doing content marketing for real estate influencers. The primary purpose of me staying into real estate was because I had been in it so long. I could speak the language, the jargon. I've done deals on my own. I've done flips, wholesales. I've even, rented. I had a rental for a couple years, and I've done just about everything you can imagine, and dipped my toes in the water a little bit. So I could relate easily, where most people that are videographers, which is kind of how I started off into this. Most people that are videographers, or they do any kind of video production, podcasting, whatever it is, they're really good at their craft, but they don't know the marketing side of it. And they dead sure don't know the content marketing side of it. And then they dead sure don't know the real estate side of things. Mm-hmm. So I've been able to take and combine all of those. So a light bulb that really turned on for me was when one of my buddies, Avi Golhar, he's out of Atlanta. He's my first client that we took on when I went full time, when we were doing this content marketing for him. And he said, the reason I hire you as opposed to any other videographer or any other social media, agency, was because real estate, content marketing, and marketing, and you're able to combine all three of those things and implement for us. And it's the truth, because a lot of people look at content marketing as just social media content, and they don't have an end goal for it. But for me, I look at it as, it's not social media content, it's micro marketing that's going out. This podcast that you're doing is marketing. Mm-hmm. When we take the video, we put it on YouTube, that's going to be marketing. And so my mind's always thinking business, and how can I convert people through this tool? How can I convert people with this podcast? And even on this show right now, I'm probably going to take this 60-second clip that I'm talking right now, once this gets published, and I'm going to use it for my platforms, right? Because I'm always thinking marketing. And so when my client told me that, I was like, bingo, I think I'm onto something. And then I went headfirst into it, and it's proven to be, you know, profitable.
Yeah.
It's good.
So what, as how big of a team do you have right now? And I know you're putting off
Oh,
people
good
now
Lord.
until January, February right now, aren't you? I mean, you guys are really growing.
Yeah. We just put another person on the list today. So we're out into like late January, probably early February, on a waiting list. And you're one of the people on the waiting list, but you're towards the front of the line at this point.
Well, I got a pull, right?
Yeah, you got to pull. But yeah, so we just onboarded number 14, and then we'll probably be hiring another video producer by the end of this week. So we'll be at 15 team members now. So.
Oh. What has been your, granted, I mean, you're growing so fast, right? So is there things that you're doing? Because oftentimes you've heard of you don't want to grow too fast or you want to
Yeah.
maintain your growth. And you're just, you're in a lot of masterminds. And Josh, what I love about you is that, you're constantly learning from some of the best people, even whether it's real estate or not, right? Business. I mean, I look at the mastermind because, I'm not in the real estate space per se, right? But when you understand wealth and business owners, that's where I'm really looking forward to the relationships that we're building. Is there's just some stellar people in these
Oh, yeah.
masterminds. But as you've been growing and building your business, I guess I'll get to my question. What I think one thing right now have you contributed to some of the success that you've been having?
It's definitely so there's a lot of foundational things I would say, but from a Eagles view, it's definitely the connections, but it's the right connections. So I've had good connections in the past, and I thought they were proven to be profitable for me. And I was obviously like, I always approach relationships as delivering value first and that kind of thing. And you being in the industry you're in, that there's those shysters out there, right? So like when I hopped on the call with you to talk about, we were just talking about life insurance because I have no clue about life insurance. I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but I came to you because I knew you weren't going to try to sell me products. And you even started the conversation with that. You're like, I'm going to teach you about wealth, not just like sell you a product. Here's how wealth works. And then let's wrap in your life insurance policy with that. So that's why I came to you. But people that are in your industry that sell life insurance, all they want to do is pitch, 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 pitch. And then for me, I'm like, I try to avoid that. So I avoid it from my standpoint and also like connecting with people like that. So, I've been in some circles, I've been in some groups of people, not necessarily masterminds, but people that hang out with each other and in the past, and it just was proven to be not the direction that I wanted to go in. These are people, some of the people that I don't want to hang out with are people that, they're preaching hustling and like grind it out and work and rise and grind and that kind of mentality. Like, I don't believe in that at all. I'm the hardest worker you're ever going to meet, but I also am a smart business owner. Right. So, I don't want to, and those people are always stuck spinning the wheels in the mud and they're not going anywhere. So those kind of people, that's what I'm talking about. Like those have been good connections in the past, but as I've grown and steadily, gone up in terms of our business growth, I've had to disconnect from those types of people because it's not the direction I wanted to go. And so, like you said, with the family mastermind and a couple of other masterminds I'm in, these are people that I want to get looped in with and really, latch onto and say like, okay, you are definitely in the direction I'm going and you're my target demographic, but I want to connect with you, learn how I can serve you, and then let's talk. So I think making those connections, and there's even been people that I have really strong connections with and people that I'm like, I could consider like very close, if not best friends with. And they're not clients of mine, but they are people that I would do anything for. And I know that they would do the same. And so being able to connect with people and literally be able to like snap my fingers and say, hey, I need help with something and not have to cut a check in order to get that information, that's super invaluable. And that's definitely been the massive contributor to the growth of where we're at. Not just in the standpoint of, like obviously the mastermind that, I'll just contribute family mastermind. I mean, I pulled 20 clients out of that. You were there, you experienced it, you saw it firsthand. And so like I contribute a lot of my success to that mastermind alone, but it's not just because like I delivered a great presentation and a good sales pitch. Like you saw what I did. I literally got up on the stage and I said, guys, I suck at speaking. Like I serve people that speak, but I don't speak. And then I just showed them what I did. and then make the connections after that and continue to build those relationships. And I think if you just don't take advantage of people and you just try to always approach with value, like how can I serve you even if you're not going to work with me, I think that's always going to win in the long run. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's the truth.
Well, it's great, right? So, and I think, I've always talked about currency follows value, right?
Yes.
And everything that we do, even in my, what I do for a living, right? It's making sure that you're providing that value, because the currency will follow that value, whether it's a direct, right, working relationship, or even if it's indirect, right? Because if you're there and you look at it from a standpoint of how can I better help and serve people, it comes full circle, right? And I think with you, Josh, like the little that I've gotten to know you, and you and I think kind of hit it off right away. But just you're authentic, you're real. Like it's not a matter of BSing people away through your process and whatnot. I mean, it's just you are who you are, right? And you embrace that, and you just show people what you're able to do, and what you do is amazing, by the way, right? Just a little that I'm understanding this whole world of social media content and all this kind of stuff, right? But it's just a matter of, yeah, man, you didn't pretend to be anybody else. You just got up there and just showed what you could do, and the results follow.
And this is like, this is something I've never like actually formed and contextualized in my mind, but as you're speaking, like this is why it totally makes sense. But the reason why I love content marketing so much is exactly what you said. And I'm going to do an entire podcast episode on this after we're done here, because it was just like, is a total banger. You said that currency follows value. Mm-hmm. And with content marketing, the core of content marketing, what I tell people is the pure definition is answering the questions that your target demographic has about your product, services, or your industry. That is the core definition of content marketing. And that's why I think content works so well, and why I think I'm so attracted to it. And I'm that sick bastard that gets like all this enjoyment out of doing what we do, is because it's all value that you're delivering. So like if I'm on stage delivering value, I know that currency is going to follow it, like you said. And then if my clients that we're serving, when we take you on and we're putting out content for your target demographic and it's all value based, currency is going to follow that too. And I think that's why I'm so attached to content marketing and why I believe in it so much. And, it works. And I know it works, and it works for every single person that we do this for. But it's the reason is because exactly what you said is that value is followed up by currency. And I think that's, you saying that has completely been able to, it's allowed me to contextualize maybe why I'm so attached to it. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. So what would be, as business owners and the things that, we go through on a daily basis, and what are some of the things, I guess, takeaways that, maybe you would do again, Josh, or, if you could have a redo over, right? Like just in the early stages of your business, what would be a couple of things that maybe you would advise or give some wisdom to people that are looking at, going to an entrepreneur mindset and becoming a business owner, or those that are already business owners? What one thing would you say, this has really helped me in my business to get to the point that we're at today?
So I hate this question. And the reason why I hate it is because I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but for me, I wouldn't change anything. I would never, like, I've been asked that question many times on other podcasts and stuff like that. And I wouldn't change anything because, again, like, I believe God has put me through the things that I've been through for a very specific reason. Now, that being said, I will give you a really good answer in turn for that. So if somebody is looking to, get good advice on business, is like the number one thing I would tell you, with hands down, without a doubt, especially in the place we're in right now in our business, is I look at every single task that Josh Culler is doing. Like, I literally on a weekly basis, every Monday morning, I did it today. I look at my task list for the week and I say, what on this list does Josh Culler himself not need to do? Mm-hmm. Who can I delegate this to? So I'll literally throw up all of my to-dos and I'll go through each one. I use the app Todoist, and I go through each task that's on that list. And I say, can somebody else do this? If so, who? And if it's not somebody on my team, can I hire this out? Can I bring somebody on the team to do this? And that has proven to work beautifully. And I guarantee you without a doubt, we talked about the growth in my business and the amount of clients we've brought on and the waiting list and all that. Like, John, I wouldn't be able to do any of that if it wasn't for me having the
Right.
mindset of delegation.
Right.
So like if I did not approach my business in a way of like, how can I pull Josh Culler out of every single task that is on his list, then the business wouldn't grow. And this is where I got stranded for a while. Last year around this time, I was traveling more than I ever had before. And my primary business was to travel on site to active real estate investors and shoot videos for them. I'd spend a day with them. We'd shoot 20, 25 videos. And that was the core of my business. And what we're doing from the content marketing perspective, for the chopping up of the content, the monthly subscription that we have, that was about half my business. The other half was doing these traveling on-site video shoots. And the biggest problem with that was it wasn't scalable because it was all dependent on the calendar.
Right.
Josh has 30 days, obviously given the month, Josh has 30 days on his calendar. And the max that I could do from my business was 30 on-site video shoots, period. And that's me literally every single day doing that. That's, first of all, it's not possible because
Right.
it burned me out as much as I was doing. I was on a plane 2-3 times a week shooting these videos and doing this thing for active real estate investors. And it was a great business. We made some money, but it wasn't a business. It was a job. I owned a job, like a really high paying job. And so as soon as COVID hit, I remember heading on the plane back from San Antonio with one of our clients. And this was the last week. It was February 27. I was on the plane. Gabby was with me. And I'm thinking like this COVID thing is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. And it's going to hit my business hard because they're going to put travel restrictions down, which we all know they did. And I thought about it like, how can I take my business more online in order to pull me out of that? So I had already been thinking about like how to pull myself out of this. I thought about, I had interviewed 3 or 4 videographers to send them in place of me to do these videos and stuff like that. And then COVID hit, and literally that next day I had like 10 trips get canceled over that next couple of weeks. And then by the end of the weekend, I had already had like 30 trips get canceled between the last week of February all the way through May. And I'm like, holy crap, like this is real. I'm so glad my mind started going this direction. And so the first, March, we struggled a little bit, but then I spent that entire time from me having those trips canceled. I spent the entire time during March figuring out how to take this thing online. And that was the root of it. So then I figured it out. We got it rolling and discovered like, hey, we really have a good foothold in the content marketing perspective with these influencers. So let's go harder at them. And we did that. But then, bring it fast forwarding all the way to where we're at. I would not, first of all, it was that having the mindset of pulling myself out of the business. Then it was now, I'm glad if that didn't happen, we would not be experiencing the growth that we have right now, period. Because I would not have been able to do all the business that has come our way. I've had to hire team members, and luckily we have processes and systems in place for them, and we just got to plug them into that. But at the end of the day, like if I didn't have the team around me, the team makes me look so good. It's like, and it's just like a basketball coach. Like a basketball coach could look absolutely incredible if he's got the right team around him. And for me, I've got the right team around me, and we do some incredible things. I think you got to meet my sister, Hannah, my COO,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. She runs the business. The team reports to her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk to any of the team members. I only communicate with the clients. Mm-hmm. And at some point that will end as well. But for now, that's the way it is. But I look at every single thing as delegation. How do I get rid of this task? How do I get this off my plate? And it has been incredible.
And, it's important, because there's times even where, because we, as business owners, we have like, I have a control personality, right? Like I feel like unless I do it, it's not going to be done right. And you have to have the right team and the right staff and the right group and the right culture to where you can entrust those people to do those certain things, right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard sometimes to step back and find those proper, delegations and things like that. I know I've been doing what I've been doing for 20 years, and I still struggle with that because it is such a hands-on deal, right? Like I don't want to delegate the planning process to somebody else on my team, right? I got to own that. And that's one of the the pros and cons to my business is the ability to, how do I scale that? Now, granted, I have other people on the team helping with, different things on the back end of the designs and working with the clients, but it is just a matter of really, can I offload this? Can I delegate this? And even looking at it from a standpoint of within your own team, are you giving somebody too many tasks? Do you need to bring on another
Yeah. Yep.
team member to help delegate so they can delegate, and then they report to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a challenge because you're looking at revenue coming in, but you also got to be very, very aware of the expenses.
Overhead,
And I
yep.
think a lot of business owners, they might be having just hundreds, if not millions of dollars coming in, but hundreds of $1 million are going out.
Yeah. Yeah. And this
Right?
is so like this. So there's two things that like to cap off that. Like, first of all, like that is one thing I will admit humbly that we have struggled with is like, because we're bringing on these clients, we have bigger overhead because we have to bring more team members on to implement and to actually fulfill the fulfillment process. And so we're going to be working with you, and then we've got David Richter with Simple CFO Solutions to help us with implementing Profit First in that system. And I strongly believe that's going to help us out a lot. So I'm aware of that exactly, and so that's our biggest issue that we're facing right now, the biggest roadblock. So we're taking care of that. In addition to that, I think so. Not even coming off the back of that is something that you mentioned earlier, kind of sparked this thought I had. I think, in terms of being able to delegate and having that mindset, it is tough. It is extremely tough to be willing to let go of something, to give it to somebody else. And I think it's a big personality thing. So I'll give you an example. My dad, he's in corporate America, works in downtown Chicago in the Loop. He's been there. He's worked at the same place for 29 years, longer than I've been alive. And he's worked his way up from warehouse all the way to corporate management. And so he's a supply chain manager. He has, I don't know, 40 some odd employees that report to him specifically. And one thing he was mentioning to me is like, he grew up old school, he grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. If you know what, the town of Mayberry on Andy Griffith's show, he grew up literally in that town. It's a fictitious town, but it's called Mount Airy, and that's where he grew up. So very like podunk area, right? And so he grew up very old school, and they teach you that you got to earn my trust. You got to earn my respect. And that's how he grew up. And so he took that and implemented that into his management style. And there's nothing wrong with that, I would say, because there's strengths and weaknesses to everything. But for me, I have always had the mentality of I give trust and you got to lose it.
Right.
And I think that has significantly helped me in every walk of life. Like, and honestly, John, like I've not been screwed over very many times, like Lord willing, it doesn't happen anytime soon, but it's not proven to be wrong for me, and it just works for me, but it's not for everybody. I understand that. But I know for me, it is actually pretty easy for me to delegate stuff. I don't have a problem with holding on to things and letting go. Like if something is like bogging my time down, or if I dislike doing something, or if I'm not good at it, it's off my plate within a day. I'm literally ringing up my COO and saying, who can we give this task to? And that's the way I look at things. And so like, I think for me, that personality aspect of, being able to give trust first, and then you got to lose it. So like, because of that, I got to protect myself sometimes. So with my team specifically, we're very slow to hire, but we're quick to fire.
Yeah.
If a team member loses my trust, it's very hard for them to get that back. And if they do not perform well and take responsibility, like responsibility is a big thing for me. If they don't take responsibility for that mess up, they don't correct it, solve the problem, create a solution for it, then they're off the team. Like they're gone. And I'm very quick to let people go over stuff like that. So that's how I protect myself. But I think, it's hard. It's hard to delegate things if you don't have that mentality. It's not just something you could just learn. You can't take a course on how to trust people, Right. So I just think people need to be aware of that and figure out like how. So if John, for instance, has a hard time trusting people, and you got to earn his trust first, then John, how does John like teach himself to let go of stuff? He's got to learn that. And I'm speaking to everybody here that's listening, but that's something that, we need to be aware of.
Well, I think too, I mean, it's really like for me, I believe that we're all adults, right? Here's the game plan. Here's the responsibilities, and just own it. right? Like
Yeah.
I'm asking you to be a part of the organization and have a passion and own that and play full out. And to your point, people make mistakes. I mean, gosh, we make mistakes all the time, right? But I think what you said, resonated with me is just all we ask is responsibility,
Yes.
even on my end, right?
Huge.
And everything. It's just like, hey, man, I really screwed up.
Hmm.
I'm going to own that, right? I'm going to own that, and I'm going to make sure it never happens again, or do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? But the whole idea of the excuses or at least in my opinion, right? It's just I don't have time for it. It's
No.
a mistake. It needs to be corrected, and let's figure out the next move to fix that,
Yeah.
right? And put in processes or technologies in place so it doesn't
Yes.
happen again.
Yes.
But let's move on from it and not dwell on it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and people need to. So if you're in any kind of management role or leadership role, maybe you are the business owner, COO, CEO, whatever your title is, whatever your role is. There's a couple things you understand. It's number one, like everything is your fault. Everything is your fault. Let me say that again. Everything is your fault. So if one of my video producers that doesn't even report directly to me, if one of my video producers are managed by a lead video producer, that lead video producer is managed by my COO. I manage my COO. So if this bottom barrel video producer screws up on something, that's still my fault, because maybe Josh Culler didn't build out the processes correctly the way they should have been in order for his mistake to not happen. It's always going to be my fault. I'm always going to find a reason for something to be my fault. And everything rises and falls on leadership, guys. That's a very cliche statement, but the more I've managed people, the more I've seen that to be true. And so approaching it in that way, and then going to that team member and saying, hey, team member, you messed up on this, but it's my fault because I probably didn't have the processes set in place for that. How can I help you not make that mistake again? How can I help you with this process? Was there something that we missed that I could implement, or I could have Hannah implement, or I could have, this other video producer implement for you? How can we solve this problem? And literally teaching the team members to be problem solvers will change the entire landscape of your entire business. I could strongly confirm that right now, every single team member on my team is a problem solver in some way, shape, or form. And I have trained them to do that. It's been difficult. Like I said, I've fired a few people over not being a problem solver. They were just an excuse maker. And but it's literally training them to be that way. So there was one time where a team member had made a mistake, and it was literally an hour before we had our weekly town hall meeting. We jumped on the meeting. We have solved that problem. We got rid of the issue. We jumped on the meeting, and I literally called out the team member, and I said, hey, her name's Daniela. And I said, hey, Daniela accidentally made this mistake, and it was totally on me. I set her up for that failure, and here's how I set her up for this failure. And I explained the problem and how I didn't implement something. And I said, but I want to congratulate Daniela because she brought the issue to me and said, hey, Josh, I made this mistake and we need to solve this. And so I had the entire team congratulate her, tell her how awesome she was for finding the issue and then approaching it from a problem solving standpoint. And like it earned so much respect for her, not me. I don't care about the respect. I didn't do everything I did and said everything I said for them to look at me and say, oh, he's an incredible leader. No, I wanted them to look at her and say, she solved this problem herself. And Josh was just kind of the help that nudged her in that direction. And now she's like an absolutely bona fide rock star and has all the respect from every team member. So lifting up other team members, but then everything's still your fault. That's the way it's got to be, guys. That's why a lot of businesses fail, is because leaders and owners don't have the gut to be able to take on that stuff. And I've seen that because of all the businesses I've been in, all the business owners I've observed. And it's just the truth. It's the way things are. And I have no doubt that's why our team has been able to stay so strong and tight knit with each other. And we've just grown so well in terms of like how we've been able to take on these clients and the demand that we have. And I'm so proud of them. Like I'm just literally can't speak volumes with it.
Yeah. Well, I know that you have an awesome team. I mean, you guys pump out a lot of awesome stuff, and you have a lot of respect within the industry, and I mean, you're even, I mean, even this podcast, right? This podcast is not going to be real estate specific, right? And I'm reaching out to you to have me help with all that. So, I mean, even your knowledge into, getting into different areas, Josh, I mean, I just can imagine that. I mean, because again, the content part of it, um, there's a real art to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, for you to listen to a podcast and cut it up and have like 40 to 50 pieces of content blows my mind,
Hmm.
right? Because my challenge is, I got to create this content, and they're like, no, you don't. You just need to shut up or not shut up, but you need to talk and get out of your own head, right? Because there's content there. And to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, I got to think about what I'm going to say. And they're like, no, just start talking, man, and we'll create
Yeah.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it is, there's so much to it, like with how you guys pull those nuggets out, and just, it's really an art. I mean, to me, it is,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
And I'll tell you this, like with any art, so like John's in the service-based industry, right? I'm in the service-based industry. And anybody that's listening that has any kind of, you're a service provider of any kind, like systems and processes will always make or break your business, period. Like, and for me to be able to take my team, obviously there's two aspects, right? You got to build your systems and processes and innovate those, making sure you keep your pulse on it, because if something breaks, like we use Trello for everything that we filter the content through. So if one day Trello stops working, and it has in the past, we gotta pivot. We gotta figure out what are we doing next. So that's something you got to keep a pulse on. And in addition to that, obviously the team is a big aspect. So team and the systems and processes, but marrying those two together is what will make or break the business. And systems and processes, I'm telling you this, like it will allow you to scale, or it will kill you off. Like if you don't have that stuff set in place, you literally, that is what puts your business on autopilot. Because if you have system and process in place, all you need to do is plug the team members in, hire right, plug the team members into it, and they're off to the races. We can onboard a team member in less than 2 days, fully trained in less than 2 days, because of the systems and processes we have in place. And that is how, and circling back around to cap off what you're saying about content marketing, that is how we've been able to do what we do, is because, and that's why I hate saying it, but this is why we have no competition, is because there's nobody in this space that we have that has the systems and processes set in place to be able to plug people in and take a podcast like this and chop it into 50 other pieces of content. And that's all due to systems and processes. That's
in
the
your
primary purpose.
systems to bring somebody in on 2 days. I mean, do you guys have are you shooting videos and recording of certain things of what that role would entail so they can go back and watch things, or how are you doing that?
Yeah. So there's two things. So number one is video recording. So if we say for instance, like from the start, I have there's first of all, you need to know the roles, right? So like that's the foundational thing. So I know for me in my business, there's really 4 roles that we're going to keep onboarding new team members for. It's going to be video producing, graphic design, distribution, copywriting. And I probably should have switched copywriting and distribution, but those are the 4 that are the core. Like we're going to be bringing on new team members for each one of those on a consistent basis. And so I know those. And when we do, it's being able to train a lead in each one of those departments. And that lead is who trains the new team member. But we also have these videos that we have documented in our processes and systems so that we can literally just send that video over to them and they can watch, and they're not lengthy, because it's not just the training, it's the actual setting up of the system and process. If you make it complicated, it's going to be complicated for your new team member to learn it. And they're going to make mistakes all the time. If it's complicated, they're not going to learn it quickly. And so it's the front end of building it out that you need to focus on. And then the training is the easy part. It's plugging it, like hire right. And then you bring that team member on and say, watch all these videos. And then Daniela, you train this new graphic designer on how to do what she's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Done. And we could do that in less than 2 days. So the documentation of like what the roles are, the specific tasks and duties, and then having a lead to train that person. So we literally have leaders inside of each department that keep tabs on their department. And that's been proven to work extremely well. So you got to look at it as like a assembly line. It's kind of how our business works. It's like, if you go to a Ford plant, you're going to have managers at each part. You're going to have a manager at where the doors are made. You're going to have a manager at where the mirrors are made, where the seats are put in, like all that stuff. And you have people on the assembly line just literally put the seat in, attach the mirror, put the headlights in, whatever, the production process looks like. And that's how it's built, is literally for just a rinse and repeat of the process in the systems. So.
Awesome. Well, man, this has gone by fast. I really appreciate you coming on. And, Josh, do me a favor and the listeners a favor. How can they reach out to you? Because I know that this is one area where, the day and age of social media and what's going on, especially with COVID and how businesses are functioning and operating now. I mean, it becomes more and more important to find a guy like you. And I'm telling you, people, Josh is probably one of the best in the biz. So how can they get hold of you and get in contact with your company?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I thought we were going to go 2 hours. So I got another hour if we get the longer the pillar content, John, the more we can chop out. So okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, this has been fun. It has gone by way too fast. But yeah, so if you guys want to connect with me, you could do one of two things. You could shoot me an email. My email is just josh@cullermedia.com, colored spelled CULLER. Or you could go to cullermedia.com, and that'll have all the resources we got there. We got a podcast called the REI Marketing Weekly, and then another podcast called the Content Marketing Playbook. And there's a lot of resources on there, ways that you can connect with me. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at the Content Ninja. That was dubbed by our good buddy Matt Andrews, because I wear all black and we chop up content. So
nice.
I love telling that story. It's so cheesy, but it's awesome, dude. Awesome. It's so awesome. Anyway, but yeah, that's how you can connect with me. So you guys reach out, just send me a message and say John sent me, and then we'll connect really well. So.
All right, man. Well, hey, I really enjoyed having you on. And again, thanks for taking the time and really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. This has been fun, and thanks for having me on. Look forward to be back.
Bye, buddy.